are you talking about? Film's the greatest educational medium the world has ever known.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Teenage Golden Age, a podcast where we talk about old Hollywood movies from the perspective of the next generation. Today, we're gonna change it up just a bit, and we have some guests on the podcast today, and I'm gonna do less talking, but I'm so excited to introduce to you first my producer and friend who helps me so much with the podcast, and just everything behind the scenes is her. She's absolutely incredible, Simone Elias, and fun fact, I also helped her discover old movies almost a year ago. I'm also introducing to you Katie, who is a big fan of Lauren Bacall and has an Instagram account at lbacall_beauty. They are both teenagers who love watching old films and spreading the word about them, and I thought it would be really cool to hand the mic over to other teenagers to hear their perspective. They are going to talk about Lauren Bacall, who they both really admire and love. And before we start, please make sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts if you enjoy this episode, and help us share old movies with more teenagers. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Teenage Golden Age, where we post movie clips, podcast clips, photos, and reminders about when new episodes come out. As I just mentioned, this episode is about Lauren Bacall, and she had an amazing 8-decade spanning movie career starting in the 1940s through the 1910s, which is incredible. And in this episode, we'll go through her life and analyze her movies, including her film noirs with Humphrey Bogart.
Hi everyone, I'm Simone, and I'm so excited to talk to you about Lauren Bacall along with Katie today. Betty Persk, later renamed Lauren Bacall, was born on September 16, 1924 in Brooklyn, New York, to a Jewish family. Her mother, Natalie Weinstein Bacall, was a Romanian Jewish immigrant and a secretary, and her father, William Persk, was a salesman of Polish Jewish roots. They divorced when she was 5, and she rarely saw him after that. Bette Davis was her idol during her childhood and teen years, and she learned a lot about acting by watching movies for hours and observing actors. About her obsession for Bette Davis, Lauren said,
During high school, she wanted to be a dancer, but switched gears to head into acting. In her school, she had the opportunity to participate in some off-Broadway productions. After graduating, Lauren went into modeling, where she eventually got to be on the cover of Harper's Bazaar in March of 1943. Howard Hawks' wife saw the cover and asked her husband if Betty Bacall, later renamed Lauren, was a good option for a screen test. Betty was tested, and from there, the part was given to her. Howard became her mentor in her first film, casting her alongside Humphrey Bogart in the film noir To Have and Have Not. Howard Hawks also decided on the name Lauren for her instead of Betty, since at the time, pretty much every star changed their name to have a specific image. Also, to hide her Jewish heritage from a rather anti-Semitic Hollywood, she took her mother's maiden name, Bacall. Adding an extra L because of mispronunciation, Betty became the well-known Lauren Bacall.
To Have and To Have Not.
Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about my thoughts on To Have and Have Not. The introduction of Lauren in the movie is literally insane. When Humphrey Bogart walks in, you see her pouring her tea, and it's so elegant, and I think it really establishes her as the main character and as a screen siren. Of course, the on-screen chemistry between Lauren and Humphrey is so unreal. To think that they weren't even married at the time is insane. Their love is so incredibly natural and it flows so easily. And that's also the case, it's very evident in the publicity shots, which are very enticing. And of course, I can't talk about a movie, give it a review without talking about the fashion. It's literally amazing. The black dress with the ring on the midriff is stunning and perfect for the character. I think the black really brings out her screen siren.
I came to say goodbye.
What?
We're leaving now. Thanks for everything.
Hey, Slim, are you still happy?
What do you think?
Also, her singing with Hoagie Carmichael is amazing. Like, just think that not a lot of actresses did their own singing at the time, and Lauren's voice being incredibly amazing, it just draws you in. Like, anytime she's singing, I'm just thinking, wow, that's really cool, and it's great. I love those scenes. And also, finally, her marquee lines come from this movie, so it's a great movie. Yeah, I have to admit, like, it's amazing. Of course, her line, the most famous, "You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve?" well, you just put your lips together and blow. Great line, for sure. And I think that's what makes this movie so popular. One of the reasons it makes this movie so popular, because that line is in there.
You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
Lauren also became famous for her signature look, which she mentioned in her book came out of her being so nervous. She would look down and then not raise her head, just look up with her eyes. And we've posted this on our Instagram at Teenage Golden Age if you're interested in seeing it.
To have and have not transformed me from a nothing to a combination of Garbo, Dietrich, Mae West, Katharine Hepburn. I was the greatest discovery since. I made Bogart sit up and take notice. I was a new face to deal with on the screen. I was the answer. Hooray! So proclaimed the press. I was everything Howard Hawks had always wanted. My name would be on everyone's lips all over the country. My words would be immortal. My God, what was I going to do about the me that was buried beneath all that? The me that I was stuck with?
During To Have and Have Not, Bacall and Bogart's relationship grew, and they eventually got married in 1945, a year after making this movie.
Jack Warner signed Lauren Bacall on for a new spy movie, Confidential Agent, where she played an English girl. Lauren didn't like the movie that much, and during filming she felt increasingly worried upon the release of the film.
Upon the release of Confidential Agent, Lauren reflected in her book, "It was a disaster. The critics said they'd made a mistake. I was not Garbo, Dietrich, Hepburn, Mae West, all rolled into one as they thought. I was just terrible, and should be sent back where I came from. As brilliant, exciting, and glorious as I had been a few months ago, that's how amateurish, tedious, and just plain bad I was now."
After 2 years of being in the spotlight, since To Have and To Have Not's release, Bacall and Bogart signed on to make another film, The Big Sleep. The Big Sleep. Private investigator Philip Marlowe, played by Humphrey Bogart, is hired by General Sternwood to help resolve the gambling debts of his wild young daughter Carmen. Sternwood's older daughter Vivian, played by Lauren Bacall, provides assistance when she implies that the situation is more complex and also involves casino owner, played by John Ridgely, and a recently disappeared family friend. As people linked to the Sternwoods start being murdered, Marlowe finds himself getting ever deeper into the case.
So you're a private detective. I didn't know they existed except in books, or else they were greasy little men snooping around hotel corridors. Ah, you're a mess, aren't you?
My thoughts on The Big Sleep. Once again, her singing is insane. The fact that her voice is so different from a lot of other actresses at the time is, I think, what makes it stand out, and in a good way. I thought it was crazy that neither the cast nor crew knew how Owen Taylor died. I heard that they actually called the author, Raymond Chandler, of the book, and he didn't know either, which is such a mystery and perfect for film noir. Lauren's character, once again, her outfit's so alluring. My favorites have to be either that silk, long, almost like ball gown style dress that she wore in her bedroom, or the shiny blazer she wears at the restaurant. Speaking of that scene at the restaurant, one of my favorite lines comes from there. She says something along the lines of, "I wanted someone to hold my hand." Then Bogey says, "That can be arranged." And then she gives him her glove. That little playful romance is just so cute, and I love their screen chemistry.
Maybe I wanted to hold your hand.
Oh, that can be arranged.
The Big Sleep got good reviews, and even though Lauren just made one movie a year, the films were eagerly awaited by the public. Bacall and Bogart went on to make their next film in 1947, Dark Passage.
Dark Passage. Vincent Perry, played by Humphrey Bogart, has just escaped from prison after being locked up for a crime he did not commit, murdering his wife. On the outside, Vincent finds that his face has been betraying him, literally, so he finds a plastic surgeon to give him new features. After getting a ride out of town from a stranger, Vincent crosses paths with a young woman, Lauren Bacall, who lets him stay in her apartment while he heals and continues to try and clear his name.
For my thoughts on Dark Passage, to see Lauren play a more gentle character and less screen siren was so beautiful. Caring for Bogey really embodied their relationship, their marriage, on and off screen. The checkered housecoat, of course, fashion, once again, that piece is so timeless. A lot of the pieces in this movie, anyone could wear at any time. I think they're just so gorgeous. But that coat, I loved it. I would wear it myself. The ending, has to be talked about. It's incredible. I wanted to cry tears of joy because it really evokes emotion when she's calling him, telling her to hang up on him, and then they meet again in the restaurant and they dance the night away. It's so cute. Perfect ending. So cinematic. And then I also thought that the camera work on Bogey at the beginning was pretty cool and clever, that they hid his identity until he was actually him when he got his bandages off. My final thought on Dark Passage is that all of the shots in the movie are so aesthetic. Her house is so cutely decorated, the painting, her easel, the car on the drive back from the prison. I don't know, just the most random things. I think they pieced the movie together so well to make it a cohesive film, and I really liked it.
We'll skip all the ifs. I get the idea, and that's all I need. Now hang up on me. Just like that. Hang up, darling.
My thoughts on this film are, first of all, I love the beginning of the movie, and Katie also talked about this, but how the movie sort of switches from first to third person. And I love how that helps you see the character of Vincent more clearly. And I love how Lauren's character is different from her other films, and she's really kind in this one and less of kind of like the typical femme fatale in film noirs. And last thing I want to say is the ending is so cinematic, and Katie talked about this also, but it just like it's amazing in full circle. Shortly after Bogart passed away, Lauren Bacall moved back to New York, where she chose to focus on her original dream, Broadway. The next year, Bogart and Bacall returned for their final movie together, Key Largo, which we will not get a chance to talk about today, sadly. Lauren continued with How to Marry a Millionaire in 1953. So the synopsis is not super complicated. 3 women set out to find eligible millionaires to marry, but find true love in the process. The movie stars Lauren Bacall, Marilyn Monroe, and Betty Grable.
How to Marry a Millionaire. This movie is so different from all the rest we've talked about. It's colorful and new. I think it really embodies fun and living life on the edge, spontaneity, if you will. And also, in Lauren's character, the juxtaposition of that I don't care vibes, quote unquote, and the fun, energetic, upbeat vibes, I think it really brings out her character and it makes her stand out. Of course, the fashion. I mean, they literally have a fashion show. All the dresses are so cute. Once again, I would wear them. I think this movie very much showcases fashion at the time in the 50s. I think it's really cool. And lastly, Marilyn's character, she's so funny. Like, the whole thing about the glasses on the airplane, it made me laugh so hard. I was like, yes, this is a good comedy. I love it.
If you had your choice of everybody in the world, which would you rather marry? A rich guy or a poor one?
In the 60s, Lauren still participated in a couple of films, including Sex and the Single Girl, which we discussed in Beck's Best 60s Fashion, and Harper, a Paul Newman movie. But she was mostly focused on being a mother and on stage performances. She starred in Applause, the All About Eve musical, and Woman of the Year, the musical, just to name a few. For those of you who haven't watched the films we talk about in this episode, To Have and to Have Not is available on Amazon Prime and iTunes, and The Big Sleep, Dark Passage, and How to Marry a Millionaire are available on iTunes and Amazon for rent and online for free if you search up the movie and then free movie. See ya. Bye.
Lauren Bacall's career extended outside of just Hollywood, and she went on to make other famous films like Murder on the Orient Express from the 70s, The Mirror Has Two Faces with Barbra Streisand, From the Mixed Up Files, and many more. She continued to make films up until the year she died, and thank you guys so much, and thank you to Simone and Katie for being a part of this episode, and we're gonna do another interview in the future with Katie, so look out for that. If you are a teenager and you like old movies, definitely make sure to DM us or email us so we can feature you in another episode. Also, make sure to follow us at Teenage Golden Age, and make sure to check out at @lbacall_beauty on Instagram, and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts if you enjoy. See you guys in our next episode. Bye!